Alright, I'm going to try this. I am on my way to pick up my daughter. So I'm going to drive a little bit. And I noticed that I think a lot when I'm in this car driving by myself. I talk a lot to our Father. And ponder the way I see the world. There was like a match of light set under my butt today. To give witness. To stand up for myself. I think that has a lot to do with it, because when I start to think about everything that I've been through in my life and how my life actually was, and I want to explain it to people in depths that you can see what I endured and what I went through. Because everybody knows that my mom died of cancer. They know that part of the story. Oh, she's so young in foster care. But I want to explain what the everyday to day life was for me during like each of these periods of time in my life. Because I have found that when I look around at my family and at my friends, and I'm realizing there's strangers that know me better than the people closest to me know me. I have to tell my story, which I always wanted to do. I promised myself, going through all these trials and tribulations, these traumas, as the world calls them, of losing my mother so young, being abused through foster care, and all of it, there was a day-to-day life that I lived. So to get to the end, we have to go all the way to the beginning. I was raised with Jesus and church my entire life. My grandma loved Jesus. She loved him. You know, had the picture on the wall. Taught us to pray, took us to church. Now, despite what the world told me that she was along these times, like, and the things that happened to her, she still had that seed. She planted the seed. She helped Father plant a seed in my life, because she was always instilling the Bible into me. And it seems like not like most families do. Like, most families go to church on Sunday and they go on Wednesdays and they do the ritual of what they think it's supposed to be. But it seems to me people don't go home and study the Bible together. Like, church didn't stop for me. It didn't stop when we left church. It didn't stop usually at all, even especially after my mom got better and went back to school and found God and was doing amazing. She has an amazing testimony. So church never stopped for me. We would go home when I would get home. We talked about God constantly. Like, I remember my mom watching the news when Waco happened. Like, she was watching that because she knew they were false prophets. She taught me that people like them were false prophets, that wasn't God, that wasn't our Father, that it was twisted and it was turned, and she taught me through that. It wasn't just some crazy person where all this craziness happened. She taught me that those were false prophets. And other people just think that as news, you know what I mean? Or like Waco, and like, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Like, I remember that guy because my mom taught me about him to tell me he was a false prophet. So you can't tell me my mom wasn't right there. You're like, she definitely wasn't wrong, But it was an everyday topic. We didn't talk about bows. We didn't talk about hair. We didn't talk about, regular life, or the worldly life. We talked about God all the time. We drew closer to God when my mother got sick, because our Bible teaches us that we seek the Father for healing, and He is miraculous, and you can't tell me that He's not. And so we were seeking healing for my mother, and I don't know if people actually can understand what it was like for me, because I was so young and the things that I was experiencing was so young, that it's really hard to get somebody on that same level of empathy. So we spent mountains of our times praying for healing for my mom and seeking God and we went to tent revivals, we went to different churches. My Uncle Butch took me to different churches for different messages, for different seeking the Father, which we are supposed to do. We are supposed to test things. We are supposed to do these things to work out our own salvation in fear and trembling, and seeking wisdom and seeking our Father. So that's exactly what my family did. I would go to school like a normal kid, and I'd be in school. But before I came to school that day, I prayed for protection over myself to go out into a world that even then was really crazy. I was praying for healing for my mom, so I prayed faithfully to my Father. I had a childlike faith. I was young, and the world was different in the beginning of the 1990s and the end of the 80s. Like, the world was a completely different place. Not only that, my mom made sure I didn't watch things on TV that was bad to watch. I didn't get to watch, like, The Simpsons, and I didn't get to watch Roseanne, and I didn't get to watch these things that she obviously knew wasn't good for children, and it's not. You can't prove that even on the psychological side of things, how that's not brainwashing. Because I might not have done the best in school, but I did psychology. I studied it my entire life. I was in therapy my entire life through foster care. It's like a mandatory thing when you're in foster care, which makes sense to an extent. I had faith and all belief that God was going to heal my mom. I didn't have a shred of doubt. I didn't know how to have a shred of doubt at that age. He was as real could be. I'd watched him answer my prayers, because before my mom got better, before my mom stopped being an alcoholic and a drug addict and just mean and abusive, I prayed to him because my grandma taught me about him. So I talked to Jesus a lot. My house was always in chaos, and what do you do when things are in chaos? You're supposed to pray. They taught us that back then. So I would pray. I would talk to my Father. I would talk to God. And in my childlike understanding, I knew, because of the sacrifice that Yahusha gave to us, gave me connection with my Father. He gave up that spirit so that when I was seeking Him, when I was seeking to speak with my Father, I would get the Holy Spirit. So I spoke directly to my Father. He was my Father. He was my best friend. So I think it upsets me when people asked me how I know I'm speaking to him. Because he was my best friend long before the world told me he wasn't. And he got me through every step I ever took through these traumas. Through this warfare. Through the fire. So around 7 or 8, when I had an understanding of prayer, I started praying for God to make my mom stop drinking. Of course you would. If your mom is a drug addict, alcoholic, and you seek God, you would pray that God would heal her. And He would take away all those bad things. Because you lived with your mom every day. She loved you more than any other person in the world could possibly love you. She just couldn't get it all the way right. But she laid down her life for me. And to an extent, she did. Because when I see my mother's death now, I don't see the cancer taking her. I see the gift from God of witnessing her faith. And the way she held on to the hem of His garment. To the moment she took her last breath. To the moment. With never a doubt that was what was going on in her life. Was the will of my Father. When you are a household that prays together the way that we did, you can't match my Father and what He tells me. And I would tell you I'm sorry, but I'm not, because I had to go through a lot to understand Him, to know Him, to know His blessings. I prayed so much, my knees could have bled. Because again, I will tell you that you might not understand what it's like to live in a house where someone is dying of a cancer that is very painful. So she's crying all the time, and she's in pain all the time, and she prayed out loud. She asked Father for comfort. She begged God for rest and for peace. And I did it with her in the other room. She would pray, and I'd be in my room praying, Father, listen to my mother. Heal her. Please heal her. There would be nights that I prayed Him, just take the pain from her. Give it to me. Give it to me just for a little bit. Just so she can get some rest. I screamed out to our Father in those days with no shame, with no guilt. And with the knowledge that I can't find in other people when they try to tell me that I can't hear God. How can I not? He talked to me then. And He would tell me, my child, I know this is hard. I understand. But you have to trust me. And you gotta listen. And my mom was never angry with God. As a matter of fact, it was completely different because she began to teach me about revelations. I think there's a lot of difference there too. Because even when my mom was sick and she was fighting, she was teaching me we were in a battle. We were in a spiritual battle. There were demons in my home. We witnessed demons as a family, not just me. My mother, my sister, my stepdad, and he's still alive. I've called and made sure that he remembered it, and he does. We had to learn how to fight demons when I was little. There were demons there. They were there. They tormented us to an extent because we had the power of prayer and we learned how to cast out demons. For about a year, night and day, I prayed for healing for my mom. I spent time with our Father. I would go out and run up and down the back mountain, but not with other little kids. Like, literally just praying to our Father to get out of the house for a little bit. I didn't stop when I left the house. I'm going down in the woods by myself, and my mom had to stay home, and I'm going to play in our backyard, and we had woods. And I talked to him. Pray for Mom out there in nature. Or I could look up at the sky and just talk to my dad. Father, please heal her. I'd come home and we didn't watch like regular TV that much. I did get to watch some, but a lot of the time we had TBN on where, you know, you had the Joel Osteen and the Benny Hinn and all these now very big pastors. They didn't seem so big back then. They're definitely bigger now. Oh, and I'd watch that Benny Hinn at 11 and 12 years old, a very innocent age. Very innocent age. It was different then. I still played with Barbies. My best friend was Jasmine. She was a year younger than me. Like, it was different. We were still so innocent. The world was different then. And like I said, I didn't watch things like The Simpsons, and every now and then my sister kind of slipped in bad music, so things still did slip in as they're going to in your trials and tribulations, learning the lessons that you need to learn. But I was really innocent, and my mom protected me. She surely did. And imagine watching that Benny Hinn, and they're up on the big screen, and this man's laying his hands on people, and they're being healed. And I'd be praying on my living room floor in front of that stupid TV. And I'd pray, Father, just give us enough money to make it to Benny Hinn. If he can heal people, like, let's just go take her to where somebody can lay hands on her and they can heal her. And, you know, he would do this special broadcast at the end where he's like, I can see through the TV that somebody needs healing, and I would wait for something to sound like my mom's healing to come through, and I would pray, and I'd beg God, please heal her. Please get us there. I know you can heal her. Please heal her. I also practiced like discipline then of not sinning and not being unrighteous, and I practiced all that. I didn't lie. I didn't steal. I loved. I was always bullied in school, but I loved everybody. I loved everybody from every group, I never tried to bully people when I was young like that. Like, I just wanted everybody to love everybody. I just wanted everybody to have Jesus, really. I grew up in a time of what would Jesus do? Like, it was everywhere. I do understand why people see me the other way, because I did slip up. But it's after a really long testimony, because it was every day of my life. got saved, I think I was around 10. And I want to tell you about that because I'm telling you, like, you know, I'm praying and I'm praying. I prayed for my mom to stop drinking, and I watched that miracle happen in my mom after my grandma passed away. Changed her whole life using her faith. And she went back to college and she got straight A's. She got sober and she studied mental health. She went into the mental health field, so she started studying psychology, which is why I studied it my entire life. And we paid off the house and she got this great job. And I watched my father answer my prayers then. And that was before her sickness. So I knew prayers would be answered. I watched that. That's a miracle. I don't care what anybody says. And my mom would tell you she didn't do it on her own. Her testimony was that God changed her from being that drug addict, from being that angry, abusive person, and showed her forgiveness. And in turn, she asked forgiveness from her children, and we gave it to her, obviously. She became the beautiful soul that my father meant for her to be. I seen this. That was the first miracle. So when she got sick and I prayed all that time, I just never doubted that he wouldn't heal her, and it took a lot to get me to come into the will of my father there. And as she got sicker, we went to church and we prayed. We went to different churches, and we ended up a few weeks before she died at a tent revival somewhere out this, and I was so young, I was 13, somewhere out this long road. I remember, I know where it is now that I'm an adult, but I remember at 13 just going out this long and windy road, and we ended up in this giant tent in the middle of, it wasn't the middle of a field because it was like right next to the road, but it was out in a country place. We met the pastor there. Good old, I don't know if it was Pentecostal, but that's about as close as I could see, but like not the one kind that you see on TV. Like it wasn't overdone, like they weren't running across stages, but there was people gathered together worshiping our Father for sure with their hands in their hair. And I'm praising the Lord, and all of a sudden the only thing that I know that it is was the Holy Spirit came over me and hit the ground. Not anything crazy, not anything shaken, but I was on the ground. And no, I don't think anybody touched me because we were worshiping. And I remember my uncle just being beside me, and I think we were just singing praise and worship. And of course, and praying. I was praying. I was always praying for my mom. And I go down. Nobody can take this experience from me. Nobody. You can't take this from me. I went down on the ground, but it was a peace. It's a peace that I can't describe in words. I don't even think at 13 I had the words. And if I have the vocabulary now, it's still hard to explain it. So I'm on the ground and I'm at peace, and I hear the music, the music was beautiful. It was what we were singing, like it was the tent revival. Like it was the people singing around me. I knew that, but it was just amazing to hear people praising God with all the faith a person can have. It sounds so beautiful. And as I laid there, I heard my father like I never heard him before. Of something that he had to tell me. And he says to me, "Daughter, your mother's gonna die soon." And I said, just in my head, I answered, I said, "Please no. I want you to heal her." He said, "No. Your mother's gonna die soon. But I promise you, I'm coming back right around the corner." But I didn't say anything back. And it just went on repeat. Your mother's gonna die soon. But I promise you, I'm coming back right around the corner. And then it was like, I could hear the people like they normally were singing, and it got louder. It was quieter when I was on the ground. It got louder. And I look up and there's my uncle. I can see my uncle. And he's still worshiping. You know, it wasn't out of the ordinary for someone to go down in the Holy Spirit. And I stood up and I looked at my uncle and I said, "Our father just told me this. He's told me, Uncle Butch, he told me Mom was gonna die soon. But he's coming back right around the corner." And without missing a beat, my uncle threw his hands in the air and proclaimed to the whole tent, "Out of the mouth of babes." And I didn't quite understand what that meant then, but I do now. But I remembered him doing that. And then he turned to me and I looked at him and I said, the first thing I wanted to know was, should I tell my mom? Should I tell her what God just told me? This is the woman I pray with every day. This is the one where I hear her prayers from her room every day. Screaming out to our Father. Praising our Father through all of that. That people say, "How are you getting through it?" My Father is my strength. Even if it takes my life, He is my strength. And I will go home. I will go home. Ooh. So I asked my uncle if I should tell her. Because that's real big for a 13-year-old to carry on her shoulders. And my uncle said, No, we won't tell her. I said, okay. I think we told my stepfather. I think I confirmed that. I think I remember told my stepdad he was my dad. He wasn't my stepdad. He was my dad. He is the man that the Father chose to put in my life to be my father on this earth. And I thank Him every day for that. I am blessed beyond measure, even through all of the trials and tribulations. So you can imagine, after I witnessed that to my uncle, who takes me to church every day, that the praying became even more intense, and I warned him. He had families start coming over because he knew that God told me. God told me, he told me, he told me. So people started coming over a lot, but I still spent a lot of time in my room praying. I remember praying for more healing. I was told, please, Father, heal her, heal her. Time's running out. Please, Father, heal her, heal her. Give it to me. I begged for him. Oh, there were so many times I begged for him to take my life instead of hers. Have you ever been on your knees praying for someone you love? Please, God, just take me. Don't take her. I love her so much. She did such a good job. Don't take her. Take me. Take me. He'd say no. Please, Father. I don't want to be here without her, please. Her last day on earth when night fell, she was praying. She was in front of my bedroom now. She was in the middle room in a hospital bed. They just started her on home chemo. We were waiting for her to get her IV food. It was supposed to be arriving. It actually arrived the day that she died. But but the night before, she was in pain that I haven't ever since witnessed in all of the death and being beside people who were dying. As I continue to tell my testimony and the things I've been through, you will see. It's crazy. But she was in a different kind of pain. And she's making these different wails and moans, and the same thing our Bible tells us, that our Father even knows what that is, what that language is. Your tears and your moaning and your crying when there is no words, especially when it's pain. And I heard her call out for her mommy. She just wanted her mommy. And I knew with everything in it that I was going to see very soon what that feeling felt like. And that's how I seen that situation at 13 years old. When my mom called for her mommy, I was in the other room, knowing that very soon I was going to know what that felt like. And then she'd call out to her father, please, Father, please. Please, I beg you, please. Take me home. Please, I want my mommy. That was in there. Please. Father, please. I remember dropping to my knees, just right inside my bedroom door was closed, but when you opened my bedroom door, there was my mom. Her hospital bed was right there. So I'm on the other side of this closed door, I'm on my knees. And she's crying, and she's wailing. And I start crying, and I start wailing, please, Father, please. Please. I can't take this anymore. I can't
taking her and her being pain. Please, Father, please. Please. If it is your will, and it'll stop the plane, please, Father, please take my mom home. Please. I know what you told me, Father. I'm ready. Please, please take her out of this pain. Take it from her, please. I prayed for hours that night, or what felt like hours. And this white light, this white feeling, this comfort, this peace. As I'm sobbing and I'm crying, it came over me. Father, please, I come into your will, please. I accept what you taught me, what you told me, because he told me my life was going to be hard when I was running in the woods and I was seeing the world for what it was. Being taught revelations and seeing demons. He told me. He told me I'd see the end of the world. He gave me dreams when I was a little girl. He gave me dreams. We talked about them in my family. We talked about selflessness. I think it's the only time in my life that I have ever been as selfless as I was that night. And I came into the will of my Father and I said, please take her home, please. I remember going to bed. I don't remember if I got straight up from praying like that and went straight to bed. I don't know if there was a time gap in there, but I remember putting my headphones in because my mom was still praying and crying and wailing, and I put my headphones in and I was listening to worship music, I'm sure. Probably at full blast because I didn't want to hear her cry anymore, and I couldn't do anything to help her. And I was exhausted from crying and praying. And I put my headphones on. And I accidentally fell asleep, and I never fell asleep because I watched my mom at nighttime. My dad was working. My stepdad was working like cat-eye, but I don't even remember that week because I checked on that, and he was there that night. He just wasn't awake. He was asleep. I thought that me and my mom were alone that night at the house besides the praying. But it turns out different. Like, I didn't even find out parts of this until God brought me out of witchcraft. I thought we were alone because Satan used that against me for a long time. He told me, because he makes you have the thoughts. And I thought, if I'd have stayed awake that night, I could have changed it. It could have been different. If I could have stayed awake, why didn't I stay awake? You know what I mean? Like, I was the one that... That's the psychological warfare that the enemy plays on you.